This is the Jerry Doyle Show.
The big GOP convention coming up in Tampa, Florida, starting kickoff activities on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the big events. Politico headline, No Ron Paul Revolution at the convention. They write that the Republican establishment has quelled the Ron Paul revolution, at least for 2012. What's going to be happening in Tampa with the Ron Paul revolution? Joining us on the program is Mark Willis. He's the Dennisville Republican Party town chair. He's also a Dennisville school board member. He's the National Committeeman Elect for the Maine Republican Party. We're talking about the bullying of Ron Paul delegates by the Romney campaign, which they're saying offered an olive branch to the Ron Paul movement. Mr. Willis, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jerry, how you doing?
Another day in paradise, except I'm here. Oh, speaking of paradise, the place that you have in Maine, you restored Kilby Ridge Farm, which is a 200-year-old 20-acre coastal farm, and you did it all on your own, not 1 cent of government subsidy. How's that possible?
Well, we moved, there from Virginia about 6 years ago, and, we bought it low, and it needed a lot of work, so it was a lot of work on our own. No, we didn't do all the work ourselves. We had a lot of people there, great people there in the Dennisville area who some people needed work, some people just wanted to come over and give us a hand, and all together over the last 5 years, we've all been able to really restore this farm, the barn. We saved it. Another few years it would have collapsed. The barn was built around 1820. It's the same original 20 acres that was there 200 years ago, and
nice.
it stopped being a farm back in the 40s and 50s. And we resurrected it. We raised Icelandic sheep and turkeys and chickens and ducks, and it's got a big greenhouse, and we have school tours come over, and we're having a great time doing it. And it's really, a lot of the old timers there are really happy to see it go back to the way it used to be.
Yeah, and nice to see people do it on a pay-as-you-go basis. What a concept. Maybe we could get some of that to transition its way over into the hallowed halls of Congress. The hallowed halls of Tampa, Florida, Mr. Willis. As I'm reading through the articles about the olive branches that the GOP supposedly offered to Ron Paul, but what I'm also hearing is an attempt to invalidate the opportunity to nominate Ron Paul, 5 states that he has control over, now supposedly being 10 states, but the RNC chairman, Reince Priebus, says, I think you're seeing the beginning of a very peaceful conclusion to this and everyone being on the same page to elect Mitt Romney. True? Close to the truth? Stretching of the truth? What's actually going to happen or is happening behind the scenes with regard to Ron Paul's supporters in Tampa? Okay, well,
I'll try to unpackage some of that and break it down by the issue. I talked to some people down on the Rules Committee today, and the last that I've heard is that there was a proposed rule for this convention. Sometimes they propose rules for the next convention, but the rule that was proposed, and from what I heard, it was not received very well, was that instead of 5 states, it would be kicked up to 10. And as of this morning, I was told that has just been proposed, but it has not been passed. And I don't know any more about where it goes from there. Maybe something will happen today or this weekend, but that's really where the last I heard. That's where that stands.
All right, wait, hold on. Let me just stop you there for 1 second, Mr. Willis. So what you're saying is the traditional rules that had been in place said if you have enough delegates from 5 states that you're allowed then to nominate. But now the Republican establishment is saying, well, that was then and now is 10. Is that my understanding? Well,
someone had proposed it from 5 to 10, but that rule has not been changed. So it's still 5 as we speak.
Okay, so the 168-member Republican National Committee have approved this report, which is a Romney-friendly committee on contests that was attempting to invalidate the Paul delegates elected in Maine because of supposed irregularities that they say that took place at the state convention. What I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, and what I'm reading is that basically they want all of this to go away so that there appears to be this solidarity movement behind Mitt Romney. And I can understand that, but the rules are the rules. I thought they were anyway. But now it seems that they're going out of their way to violate those rules, but sell it as an olive branch so as not to disenfranchise the Ron Paul supporters from the Romney-Ryan ticket.
I think your assessment is very accurate, Jerry. And to break it down for our listeners who don't know everything about the Maine Convention back in early May. We went to the convention. It was your classic grassroots, street-level politics. We got people out to the caucuses early in the winter. Sometimes that's hard to do in the snow. We got delegates to the convention, as did the Ronson side. They had their people there, too. So both camps brought their people to the convention, only we had more votes. We had more people. We were more organized. We anticipated a lot of the things that they were going to try to do, like introducing fake slates at the convention by a paid Romney supporter, a campaign worker, and that's been caught on video. So those types of things went on at the convention that you just don't hear about. But here's the thing, Jerry, that I tell everybody about this. They went in with their team, and we went in with ours. And in the end, we won everything that wasn't nailed down. We took everything, and we did it fair and square. If they had wanted to contest this, then they should have withdrawn all of their nominees and filed a formal complaint and actually walked out. But they stood there. They thought they were going to win. They tried to win just like we did. And in the end, we were victorious, and they weren't, and they can't live with it.
And you know a little something about intelligence and counterintelligence, having been in the United States Army as a counterintelligence officer with duties both in Haiti and Bosnia. So you understand how these games get played, and we're not trying to make believe that we live in this puritanical world where everything is pure as the driven snow. But as you pointed out, you were following the rules at the time as the rules were dictated. You guys won in Maine, but now they're trying to say that by following the rules then, those are irregularities now, which would invalidate the opportunity that the rules would say that you have to do a floor nomination of Ron Paul in Tampa.
Correct. And if you listen to our chairman, Charlie Webster, right after the convention, he mentioned, hey, I don't think there was anything wrong. I think they're going to be seated. And that was a general consensus of the establishment of the party at the time. And then, like I said in other interviews, Jerry, they had 2 to 3 months to put their case together. And they had affidavits. They had all this information. They took it to the first committee on contest meeting, and they couldn't find any evidence. So they gave them a second bite at the apple. And at that point, as I've always said, you've had 2 to 3 months to come up with a case. You couldn't come up with anything. You tried to get your people elected, and you failed. But this has moved from the quasi-legal area, having a law degree. I've said all along, if this was a court of law, the judge would say, get the heck out of my courtroom. This case is dismissed. I won't even entertain this. But now this whole thing has shifted into the political realm where we have an outcome that we need, and we will find any way to get to that outcome regardless of whether the rules are followed or not. And if we have to make up the rules as we go along, then we'll do it.
And again, in addition to being having a doctorate of law degree from George Mason, you also have a master's degree in information systems management. So, I point these things out, Mr. Willis, because I want people to understand that you're not what the media tries to portray, and even the Republican Party tries to portray, as the typical Ron Paul kook, nut job, fringe supporter that wants to, undo everything and redo it in the image and likeness of, as Politico so kindly reports, the libertarian septuagenarian, Ron Paul. So, you see how this stuff gets played out. But this attempt to invalidate the delegates is no different than the media's attempt, Fox News included, to invalidate Ron Paul during the campaign.
Absolutely. The media blackout was one thing that, the straw poll that we had in Maine was very close, and our caucus in Washington County was delayed for a week because of a snowstorm, and that was very controversial. And it actually worked out to be a blessing in disguise. But in the end, we won the convention, and we are going to Tampa, Jerry, as a united group, alternates and delegates. And our motto, our message is never, never, never give in, never surrender, and never quit. We are going to Tampa, and we fully expect to be seated because we were the duly elected delegates at the Maine Convention. And it's either all of us or none of us.
And with regard to who's going to be at the convention, I find this to be a stark contrast to the Ron Paul movement and the Ron Paul supporters. But Mike Huckabee, who I think is a nut job, and the Family Research Council's Tony Perkins are going to the convention to stand up for the absolutely certifiably insane Todd Akin, who made the supposed, quote, legitimate rape comments. Not supposed he made them, but they are supposedly legitimate rape. So they're persona grata, but Ron Paul delegates and Ron Paul supporters are persona non grata.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You find a lot of lawmakers across the state of Maine and elsewhere. As soon as that individual, that gentleman from Missouri, made that comment, they were all over it very quickly. Condemning him for his statement. But a lot of these people have been silent the entire time on our delegation.
When you hear the comments or the criticisms, and I know you do, as do I, Mr. Willis, yeah, that may all be true. And let's just say the Republicans are attempting to manipulate the rules or to invalidate the rules or to change the rules. It's all being done to make sure that Romney and Ryan win in November and we get rid of this socialist president and an absolute failure of a vice president, Joe Biden. How do you respond to that you're not helping?
You know what? If you look at the prelude, at the opening page of the Republican Party rules, the RNC rules, it says that this party is a party of liberty and inclusiveness, and and that we welcome many different people. We're basically, in so many words, we're a big tent, and we welcome different ideas. If you look at the prelude to the RNC rules, the first page. So what I say to that is, we're providing the stance of the Republican Party of what it used to be, and more people are gravitating towards that. And what I say to that too, Jerry, is that if Romney has all the delegates, if all the reports are true, then what is he worried about 20 little delegates from Maine doing at the convention? If he has it all wrapped up, why can't you say, you know what? There are different ideas and opinions in this party, and we welcome them. We don't suppress them. We don't put them aside and ignore them and push them aside and give them a blackout and act as if they don't exist and lock them out and maybe even have them sign loyalty oaths, which could be coming from what I'm hearing. It hasn't passed yet, the Rules Committee, but that might be in something we're looking at as well. Why would you do all that if you had it all wrapped up? Wouldn't you want to say, you know what, I welcome you guys. I welcome, and I do accept some of your ideas. I might reject others, but in the end, we're a big tent, we're one big family, and we're all going to go out and beat Obama. That's the message that he should be sending, and he's not.
I would think the other message I would be sending, too, to the libertarian septuagenarian supporters, as Politico reports about Ron Paul, if libertarian is what it is, that would be an apt description of Ron Paul and his supporters and the Ron Paul movement. I think they would want to embrace him and that concept of libertarianism, because I know they're going to be embracing Ronald Reagan at the convention. And Ronald Reagan embraced libertarianism in 1975 when he said, if you analyze it, I believe the very heart and soul of conservatism is libertarianism. The basis of conservatism is a desire for less government interference and less centralized authority, more individual freedom. And this is a pretty general description of what libertarianism is. I would have to think that embracing the words of Ronald Reagan would by default allow the GOP to embrace the Ron Paul movement.
Yeah, I mean, I love Ronald Reagan for his rhetoric and the things that he tried to do, and so many things that he talked about in the late 70s and in his 80 campaign were so libertarian sounding, and that's why people were so excited and they were gravitating towards that message, because, and of course the establishment tried to shut him down with George Bush Sr., et cetera, but he fought, and he finally broke through. And then we know how, as he governed, that was a little different, surrounded by a Democratic Congress and all that. But in some people, even within the Republican Party, kind of cutting him off. But his rhetoric was very libertarian and very appealing to everybody, and that's what made him so popular. And so, again, they should embrace that message of Ron Paul. Ron Paul was one of, I think, only 4 congressmen who endorsed Reagan in 1976.
Right.
So Ron Paul has been consistent all along. And that's
absolutely. I have to go to a break here, Mark Willis, but, how do you beat a consistent socialist? You beat a consistent socialist with a consistent conservative and a consistent constitutionalist. That would be Ron Paul and the Ron Paul movement. Mark Willis, I hope we can check in with you from time to time during the convention down there in Tampa. I appreciate your time and the information that you've given it to us on the program. We'll do it again, sir.
Thank you, Jerry. Anytime.
Stick with us. We'll be right back.
This is the Jerry Doyle Show.